America needs a tidal wave of the old-time religion.
I have sinned against you.
How dare you!
We have no need to doubt God.
The heart of Babylon is preparing the nations to receive the Antichrist.
I didn't even build that house with money from the church. I built it with money from my book.
I don't make this stuff up.
Repenting of your sins.
It is a moral issue.
They got together and swore a pact to the devil.
I just enjoy seeing people worship, praising God.
Hey everybody, welcome to Believe It or Not.
The show where we believe it.
Or not.
Or do we?
Or did it?
We didn't.
Oh, who knows? I'm Trevor Poelman.
And I'm Damien Doepping.
And we don't know.
You know what? And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to admit that we don't know is a good thing.
It's one of the best freedoms you could feel. Like I don't know if it's freedom, but like the biggest relief you can feel, especially if you grew up religious, to be able to say I don't know and have that be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it one of those old dead Greek guys who said that a true wise man knows that he doesn't know a lot of stuff?
Mm-hmm. I think it was one
I
of
think
them.
I totally butchered that.
I think that's perfect.
I bet all the philosophy majors are just like, no,
not even close.
That's not what it is.
Yeah.
But it's okay because they don't have jobs.
That's true.
I'm kidding.
Remember from that
I don't have a
70s
job
show?
either.
Oh, yeah.
I do, but
not in your field?
No.
Oh, same.
So. In that 70s show?
Oh, in that 70s show when, what's her name, said she was switching to philosophy, and Red's like, oh, great, because they just opened that philosophy factory downtown.
Yep.
That's what I always think of.
A philosophy factory is an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
Would a factory for philosophy kind of negate most of the philosophies?
Probably.
In a way?
Yeah. I'm just picturing like when Bart owned a factory.
First it started to fall down over, and then it fell over.
And a son who owns a factory. But we're not here to talk about people who own factories. Have you ever been threatened with hell?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
If I had, I ignored it.
But I've had arguments on the interwebs or in real life where people end it with, well, you'll find out when you die, which is, you're going to go to hell. And, it is October this month.
October.
It's the Halloween month.
Yes.
So I figured...
Of haunts and ghouls.
Haunts and ghouls and hell. And so let's talk hell today.
Sure.
It's a little like break of format for us. I thought we'd do just a deep dive into
H-E double
hockey sticks.
I said hockle-stick.
Hockle-stongles.
Hockle-stongles.
Because, what is hell?
Yeah, I mean, there's the version of hell that we always see on TV and movies.
Yeah, like the Little Nicky.
But that's not really what hell is, right?
No,
that's only like a part of hell.
Well, yeah, so hell has a weird history.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the Bible, it is very inconsistent on what hell is.
The Bible?
The Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, not just on what hell is. The Bible's just very inconsistent. It's inconsistent on evil, on what Satan is, and on what hell is. There's parts of the Bible that says that God doesn't cause evil. There's parts of the Bible that says God is the author of evil. There's parts of the Bible where Satan is, a demon that does awful things. And there's parts of the Bible where he's just like the adversary who's still part of God's ruling team, but he's just kind of like the devil's advocate, if you will.
Yeah, a necessary evil.
Yeah. So it's inconsistent there. Like the snake in the Garden of Eden isn't said to be the devil in the Bible. It's just... It's just a snake that talks.
Just some temptation.
Yeah. And in Job, the book of Job, where he's praying to God too much, so God's like, I'm going to punish you for that. Yeah. He comes out and he does a magic trick.
Yeah. So he punishes him for praying too much?
Well, I guess like...
is that really
Well,
how that
Job
starts?
is really faithful, and then Satan's like... Hey God, because Satan and God have the same office space or something.
Oh, they're like pals?
They're pals.
He's like, yeah, God, I'm going to need you to stay late on Saturday.
Yeah. And Satan's like, well, he worships you because he has all this good stuff, right? And so God's like, no, he'd worship me if he didn't. So Satan's allowed to punish him and stuff. But in that case, it's the Satan, and it's like It just means the adversary. So it's like, or a Satan, like he's one of the adversaries. So it kind of depends how you look at it. So it's inconsistent there. There's also a part where it talks about Lucifer, but it doesn't really say that's Satan either. It just says it's like the morning light that was cast down.
Okay.
So, and then that was kind of added into.
Was that the one that they say was an angel?
Yeah, they say that he was an angel that was cast down, but it's not really clear that it's an angel or that it was supposed to represent Satan. It's just like kind of a
People
nice
take
metaphor,
it to be that,
and then you just make it.
My thing with the job, sorry, just going back to that for a second, it's shouldn't God just know that he would worship him?
Isn't he all knowing?
Yeah. So why does he have to fuck with this guy for no reason just to go to Satan? Like, see?
Yeah.
Told ya.
Yeah. And actually, Job was the first book of the Bible that was written. So maybe they just didn't have the format down yet.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. But hell. So in the Old Testament, there's certain words that have been translated to mean hell in certain translations.
Yep.
Most of the time, they're translating a word Sheol.
Sheol?
Sheol. But it's not really about a place of punishment or about like the hell that we would know it. It's either a place where souls are kept until kind of the judgment, or it's just a grave.
Okay.
Yeah. So some translations will translate it as the pit.
Yeah.
Some will translate it as hell. Some will translate it as the grave. And some will take
pit?
Context in. And,
The soul bank?
Yeah, the soul bank.
Yeah.
So the Bible, like in the Old Testament, it doesn't ever use any kind of mention of hell besides Sheol, which definitely isn't hell. It also uses the word Tartarus at one point.
TARDIS?
The TARDIS, like from Doctor Who.
Tartarus.
Yeah. So it uses it once, and it's kind of, I think it's from Greek mythology, and they use it more as a metaphor. So
what does Tartarus mean?
Tartarus is the portion of the underworld in which those few dead who especially offended the gods during life are trapped in eternal torment. So it's just like a
that's kind
reference
of
to
more
Greek
of
mythology,
a hell.
and that's more of a hell. So other than that one reference, it's the only time you'd find any reference of kind of hell would be Sheol, which has kind of, which
Not
just
really
means
hell.
death, which just means a time, like when you're dead.
So most of our understanding of hell is just an extrapolation on two very vague things?
From the Old Testament, yeah. And then the New Testament gets a little more...
They get a little more explicit.
A little more explicit. And then also, like, in the Old Testament, David talks about God being with him even in Sheol, like even in death. So obviously that's not hell if God's there, right? Because, well, according to today's translations, because God's supposed to be there. God doesn't exist in hell. He can't be there. That's kind of the punishment.
I didn't know he couldn't be there. I thought it was kind of like...
Or he doesn't want to be, maybe. It's like a
he's like
separation.
corporate, so he only shows up to do like an inspection every once in a while.
Yeah, and
But for the most part, he's not really there.
Yeah, that makes sense. The New Testament, there's a couple other words. In the Old Testament too, though, there's Enoch, which isn't really in the Old Testament canonically, but it's in some, I think it's in the Apocrypha, I could be wrong about that, and the Maccabees, which is Apocrypha literature. They start to get into like apocalyptic literature and kind of more about death and what happens after you die.
Right, so they're kind of extrapolating on that stuff a bit more.
Yeah, and Daniel does too, especially like the longer versions of Daniel, which are in the Apocrypha, but even Daniel that's in the Bible.
Yeah.
They start to get more into that, and it starts to reflect a little bit more of Greek mythology and other mythology of the day.
Okay.
Very different than kind of early Jewish beliefs on hell.
A little more of an absorption of... what they would consider pagan.
Yeah, exactly. And then the New Testament comes along, and there's like, so in the New Testament, in Jesus' day, Jesus had these two kind of groups that were his enemies, right? The Pharisees and the Sadducees. They were both like religious leaders.
Yep.
The Pharisees believed in hell, Sadducees didn't. Jesus aligned more theologically with the Pharisees. Like he taught about hell. And that's kind of where it started to get a little bit more traction. He talked about a place called Gehenna, which was a literal place in Jerusalem.
Okay.
But it was also kind of a gross place. And also Okay, so preachers will preach that it was a garbage pit at the time, and that's why he used that as a metaphor.
Okay.
But there's no evidence for that. They think it's more like it was believed at the time that human sacrifices were done there.
Oh.
It was like they had
Why do they think that?
I think it's kind of the same fears as today, where people just are afraid of other religions and stuff like that. So
Right. Okay, so there might not have actually been
there
human
might not have been. There
sacrifice.
might have been human sacrifice, but probably not.
It was
you know?
more just a fear of other people's beliefs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and so they would use Gehenna as kind of a stand-in for punishment after death, stuff like that. Place of like bloodiness, and they would also use the New Testament also has Hades. It mentions Hades because it's you know, basically the Bible is very like it doesn't really give a theology of what hell is.
So that's all that was in the New Testament about hell as well.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like some vague references.
There's one in a
shit
metaphor
town that people don't like.
Yeah,
and then a metaphor. Okay.
Yeah. There's a story about the rich man and Lazarus. This guy dies. Poor guy dies, goes to heaven. Rich guy dies, goes to hell.
Do they say goes to hell? Or?
Basically, yeah. So that one, it's in that story. It's like a parable Jesus is saying about how you treat people on earth has effects in the afterlife. And then in Revelation, it talks about the pit of fire, the lake of fire, or whatever that we get. Yeah, that's where the term lake of fire comes from. And evil people are thrown in there, and so is Satan and his demons. Never says that Satan rules hell anywhere in the Bible.
Right.
Satan just goes there to be punished like everybody else.
He lives there too.
Yeah, he's being punished along with everybody else. Early Christians didn't really have a set kind of theological belief when it came to hell. Yeah, it was kind of still debated at the time. The belief, especially in the early days and still a lot of times today, is that, you know, when you die, you're kind of just dead until the end of everything, and that's when the judgment happens.
Judgment Day, right?
Yeah, and that's when evil people are thrown in the pit.
Okay.
So it started to create kind of that theology of purgatory, things like that, where where is your soul? Is it just dead? Is there nothing going on?
Is purgatory where everybody would be right now then? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think so. Well, yeah. I think in some ways some people would believe that, and then others were like, no, that's just where kind of the in-between,
because
I've heard to earn your way into heaven.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there seems to be some inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Like, it always seems like, oh, you die, you go to heaven or hell.
Yeah.
But then, like we've talked about, is that you don't actually go to heaven or hell, that you're just kind of waiting for the
judgment,
the end times, and then you'll go to heaven or hell. But where are you in the meantime? Is that purgatory, or is that...
Yeah, actually, I think I said that out of context because, I think you're just dead according to like early theology. And then I don't know if purgatory is involved there or not.
So, okay, well, let's ignore like purgatory. Let's say whatever. But if you're just dead, does that mean your soul just kind of comes back for...
Yeah, your soul just comes back at the end for the judgment or whatever. And then it just started seeping in that, you know, when you die, you go to heaven or hell immediately. And that doesn't have any biblical basis or anything.
Yeah, they just made that up.
Yeah. Let's also talk about some of the influences of what kind of created hell.
Yeah,
as it's viewed now and as it's viewed in the Old Testament. So ancient Mesopotamia, the afterlife was dark, dreary, cavern. It was ruled by demons. The souls incurred were believed to eat nothing but dry dust, and family members you would pour libations on their grave.
Okay,
and that's how they would get beverages.
I like the clarification that it's dry dust.
Yeah.
Isn't all dust dry?
Yeah. When does it become dirt?
Or mud?
Mud, yeah.
So that's basically what we understand as hell in a way.
Yeah. And the demons, or the Gala, were a class of demons that believed to reside in the underworld, and their primary focus was to basically drag you underground and drag you into the underworld and punish you while you're there.
Well, I'm sure like Hades had another kind of connotation. That was a little less sinister. Everyone went there, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
That one?
Yeah, Tartarus is from Greek mythology, and it's just a gloomy place, less like not the like a fireplace, but it has, that's where the Pan where is he? Pontus or Pan, Tartarus, they would kind of, and Hades, they would like punish you, things like that. And we got a lot of our imagery from Pan for what the devil looks like.
That's fair. I can see that. How much does something, I don't know if you have this or not, but something like later things like Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, that's Dante's Inferno
was
was
a huge influence on modern day conceptions of it, right?
It totally is. And like that idea of Satan ruling it, and that idea that it's like, just kind of most of how we view hell, especially like in imagery and in the way we portray it in movies and TV, is a lot from Dante's Inferno, zero from the Bible or like early theology. And so Zoroastrianism, is where we get a lot of like our ideas. Like there was demons there who dwelled there. They'll punish the evil. The good get to go to a better place.
So it seems like it was a fairly universal concept that was just kind of adopted.
Yeah, it was adopted
after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, Judaism didn't really have that until later, when it got to like the Maccabee Wars, things like that, is when they started to form more of a theology of hell. And a lot of modern day Jewish people don't really have a theology of hell. It's not really something that they're gonna preach.
It's kind of like when J.K. Rowling came out a few times on Twitter and just said, "Oh, this person is like this now."
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
that's after the fact. Yeah.
That's kind of what they did with the Bible and hell.
Yeah. And then we have another one of your old Greek guys, Plato.
Oh, the guy who made the clay.
Yeah, he had the myth of which I think a lot of stuff was pulled from, which is basically...
Is that U-R,
E-R.
E-R.
Yeah, the myth of and it's just kind of a story about like a morality tale.
Okay.
Basically, moral people are rewarded in the afterlife, immoral people are punished, and in this kind of underworld, evil, kind of scary place. Hell's not real, basically, what I'm saying here. It's just a mashup of all these kind of different ideas, but then like Augustine of Hippo. So before that, like the idea of hell was debated on whether it was a temporary thing or whether it was to reform you so that you can go to heaven. So you're like going through kind of this, trial period where you get punished for your sins and then it's over and then you either get to go to the good place or it's just done,
Right.
Like it's just, but he was saying like you needed a literal lake of fire for justice. It was basically like justice for evil in the world. God, I guess, needed to have justice on these things, and that's why it was like kind of needed. I mean, it was a necessary thing. We had to have hell. We had to have a place of punishment.
Sounds more like people wanting an excuse to have a place for justice.
Yeah,
and not a deity wanting a place for justice.
Yeah, and that was always a question too of like, why would a all-powerful, all-loving God have to punish people?
Well, I mean, if we're looking at the context throughout, I guess more so the Old Testament than the New Testament, he does seem to be a very vengeful God.
He does,
right?
Yeah.
Very petty, and kind of like whimsical in a way, where he just does things on a whim.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, it does fall in line with that, but I think later it doesn't really.
Yeah, like the loving Jesus or the loving God, it does the eternal torment in hell for.
It seems like a really strong PR move, doing like, we got to turn this around.
Yeah. And it's funny that the vengeful God in the Old Testament, there was no hell, and then it was the loving God in the New Testament, and that's where we get hell. Like what?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're just kind of passing it off. They're like, listen, we still got to have this stuff.
Yeah.
But it just can't be me.
Yeah, exactly.
It really makes it an us versus them. Yeah. But again, it's also something, I understand where it comes from, but it's also like, how can we make people feel that they need to listen to us? You got to have a consequence for not doing
That's
it,
true.
Right?
Yeah, and medieval preaching, like the 7 Deadly Sins, was a very popular preaching technique, and it just started to become more about that evil and punishment, and that's kind of what started making it more popular in people's theology and in people's like the way they view God was like it's not just about serving the right God, it's about if you don't, you're gonna be punished.
I think a lot of it was getting people to come back and pay money to the church, and that's when you start getting into things like indulgences and stuff like that too, right? It's just just becomes a means for exploiting people.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I mean, it still happens today.
It still happens today. Let's talk about today. Some of the other kind of theological views of today. Catholics still believe in purgatory, that purification place where you can eventually go to heaven, but they also where
did purgatory kind of stem from? Because I know we talked about hell kind of being a postscript to the Bible.
Yeah,
right?
Purgatory is definitely a postscript, but there's also, I think it's because, like, there's also in the Bible, because there's so much inconsistencies with what happens after you die, that I think it's kind of reading between the lines of, like, there are these places that are death, that God visits you and comforts you, but it's not heaven. It's still not a great place, but it's not a bad place either. So
it's almost like a placeholder for it?
Yeah, I think it kind of came out of that, where it's like, Jesus came and saved the souls after death. Who was he talking to? Was he talking to the people in hell, or was there another place? So there's all these kind of like different things in the Bible. So it does make sense to kind of pull another, like, to theologically make it make sense. So I think that's kind of just where it came from, and I think it grew popularity just over time. And then, because with Catholics, I mean, they're a little more in your face about just their theology and like making it canon, because they have like the Pope and stuff like that. So the Pope can say this is canon now. And where other religions, it'll just be debates, and then eventually split off. So one group believes this and another group believes
There's
this.
a lot more spectacle in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they have better hats.
I can't say it today.
Iconography.
There we go. I couldn't say a word. You couldn't say a word.
Yeah.
Today on We Don't Know How to Read.
We'll make a supercut of. I think I already did it on the 1 year thing of me not being able to read.
Well, you know what?
Yeah. Catholics, hell though is they kind of go back and forth between referring to it as an actual literal place or a state of being, as opposed to like a literal place where you go. Well, where they do sort of believe it's a literal place, they're gonna more view it as like a state of death and a state of like being separated from God and the punishment that in itself is. Okay. Yeah.
Wouldn't, by its very nature of what that is, be a place then?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Well, it depends how you view souls in the afterlife. Like, is it a physical realm? Is it a...
Because if it's a metaphysical realm, then heaven wouldn't be a place. It would be a state as well,
it'd be a state as well, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know how they view heaven.
We're just splitting hairs now, so...
I love splitting hairs, though. So, and then the Eastern Orthodox, your soul, it's not punished forever. Your soul is punished until, like, the Judgment Day. So it's kind of that opposite of like you're thrown into a fire.
Wait. So you're punished before Judgment Day?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not. Well, you do go to jail before you get your sentence.
I guess. Sure.
Maybe like if you're found innocent, you get paid back for that time you spent in hell.
Yeah.
With like extra time in heaven. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Protestants, there's a lot of different versions of kind of what Protestants believe about hell. A lot of it's though just like a literal place where they're burning and it's torturous, and if you don't believe in the right version of Protestantism, you're gonna go to hell for eternity. And others, it's a little less specific, like C.S. Lewis. In one of the Narnia books has one of the enemy guys getting into heaven because he meant to serve the right God, and he wanted to serve the right God. He was just happened to be born in the wrong place. So C.S. Lewis kind of taught that, like, as long as you were trying to find the truth and you were trying to find the right God, then you would get into heaven.
Which I got to say, I do like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a better way than just, they're the wrong type of this.
Yeah, this tribe that never had any any contact with any Christians because they never heard the name Christ isn't gonna.
But not even just that, even just other types of Christians.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it really fundamentally that much different?
No.
When you get down to it?
No, not at all.
Like the basics are there.
Yeah, exactly.
But they still believe that everyone's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot of more liberal Christians today, it's either it's only for a small period of time, or it doesn't exist. They'll look at the Bible and be like, no, that was more metaphor. But it depends, too, on kind of where they are at and depending on which liberal denomination or which liberal person. I remember I was a Christian for a number of years and I didn't believe hell existed. So,
really?
Yeah. That was one of the first things that I kind of dropped before I dropped the faith, which I think kind of helped me in the long run because when I did lose the faith, I didn't have that fear of hell because I'm like, well, even if I'm wrong, I know hell doesn't exist.
That's fair.
So,
that's fair.
But yeah, so which shows it is a good tool that people can use to keep people in the fold.
Yeah, it's fear.
Yeah, it's definitely fear. Yeah. Seventh-day Adventists.
Oh, Black Sabbath, it's heaven and hell.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So.
Seventh-day Adventist, it's the annihilationist point of view. So basically, zap, you're done. If you're like a bad guy, then you're just annihilated. You just don't go to heaven. Yeah,
I kind of like that idea better.
Yeah,
because I mean that's not the worst thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a way, that's what I believe now.
Yeah, exactly.
Happens.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm okay with that. It's like
I'm totally fine with that.
That's what happened before I was here, and that's what's going to happen after I was here. I just didn't.
Great.
Exist.
I have to go up and spend eternity with a bunch of boring people who I wouldn't have liked in the regular life.
Yeah, I was watching. There's these annoying YouTubers. I won't say their name, but basically they're like a Christian YouTubers, and one of them had their sister on, and they were talking about what women want in a Christian guy, and one of them was talking about how if they don't like to worship God, then I don't want to be with them, because when we get to heaven, that's all we're going to be doing is worshiping God. It's like, oh my God, no, thank you.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah. We're just going to be standing in a choir singing to somebody? No, I'm good. I'll just be dead. I'm okay with just being dead. Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, all I get, it seems like such an insecure, needy kind of deity that people follow is like, we're just going to be worshiping him forever. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Like, that's never the good guy in like a movie where like
it's kind of
they make everybody bow to them constantly.
It's very codependent. I know you can believe in heaven without believing that.
You can believe in like the good place version of
I'm
heaven
saying
that
heaven just seems it seems a bit too much.
Christian Science, our good friends Christian Science, I don't even understand what they're saying. Let's skip that part.
What does it say? Read it. We'll
it's okay. It out. So this is from probably Wikipedia. Christian Science defines hell as follows: mortal belief, error, lust, remorse, hatred, revenge, sin, sickness, death, suffering, and self-destruction, self-imposed agony, effects of sin, that which would worketh abomination or maketh lie. Basically, when you're bad in life, that means that those things kind of come back to you. It's not like something doing it to you.
You go to a place and you experience all those things, basically.
Yeah.
That's your punishment.
Yeah. Oh, what do the Mormons believe? Oh, yeah. The Mormons, it's just a temporal state. Like, Mormons don't really have a theology of hell. It's more like they have levels of heaven, but there is a temporal kind of hell before kind of everything.
Yeah.
If you're a bad guy. The righteous people will rise on the first resurrection and live with Christ on earth for his return. 1,000 years, the millennium. That's just something in the Bible. Like, there's a 1,000-year reign from God where everybody's like, yeah, whatevs. And then after that, there's like the punishment and judgment and
I feel like the 1,000 years thing was just like, people will never be around long enough for this.
Yeah.
And then here we are.
Yeah. So basically the idea, and the reason I wanted to do this episode is because I think a lot of people, after they leave the faith, the fear of hell is something that was instilled in them and something that really, really holds on and really makes people lose a lot of sleep. And I think if you can see and just do some of your own research too, and just realize that it's a jumbled mess, and there's definitely not a hell. It's just people trying to put fear into you, and people trying to keep you where you are with the threat of a punishment that isn't going to happen.
I also want to say I like to think that if there is, for whatever reason, a divine and just deity who's taking care of everything, I think so long as you are a decent human being who's not, murdering children or being a total asshole to everyone you meet, you would think that would be enough for them to be like, you know what, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't need you to be kissing my ass your whole life and pretending to be pious when you're really not. You're just doing it out of fear.
Yeah.
You would think that would be more desirable is for someone to just be a good person.
Exactly.
Without fear of retribution.
Fear of retribution exactly.
So live your life.
Treat people well.
Yeah. Unless it's funny.
So let's move on to the segment. Trivia time.
Fuck, I'm done.
Where's our Bible?
Where's our Bible?
Where's our goddamn Bible? We don't have a Bible in here. Why don't we have a Bible? We never have.
It's a bar.
Okay, so this one I chose. It's from How Stuff Works. You know the podcast How Stuff Works. But what I've done is I chose one that I don't know the answers to. We just have to guess, and then we click on it, and then we find out. So both of us are in this together.
All right, I don't feel as bad now.
All right, so this is, I'm going to read a quote, and you're going to tell me, or we're going to decide together, is this from the Bible, or is this from a movie?
Okay.
Brothers, what we do in life echoes in eternity. Is that from a movie or from the Bible?
I feel that's a movie.
I think so too. Yes, it's from Gladiator.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was feeling something like that. I was thinking it's either like it's a warrior speech.
Yeah. There is nothing free except the grace of God. Is that from a movie or from the Bible?
Movie.
What do
you think?
Yep.
Movie?
Yeah, it's from True Grit. 2010 movie True Grit.
We're doing all right so far.
Okay, yeah. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace, and his voice was like the roar of many waters. That sounds biblical, but
that does feel Bible-y.
Yeah. But his eyes were like flames of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace, and his voice was like the roar of many waters. Yeah, let's say Bible.
Yeah.
Oh, correct.
Aha.
Whoa, it's from Revelations. Yeah, it's John describing Jesus in Revelations. In Revelation, yeah. Woo, look at that. Revelation 1:15. I wanted a mission, and for my sins they gave me one. I want it. Yeah, I think it's a movie too. Which movie? I don't know. Oh, yep. Apocalypse Now.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. Your heart is free. Have the courage to follow it. That sounds like a movie.
That does feel like a movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's from Braveheart.
Okay.
As for me, I am in your hands. Do with me whatever you think is good and right.
Movie? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a...
Is it a Bible?
I feel like it's a movie. We're going to say movie?
Sure, let's say movie.
Wrong, it's from the Bible.
It is the Bible.
Yeah,
okay.
Jeremiah. Dang it.
Well, we doubted.
We tried, right?
You notice all the movies so far are like war movies?
Yeah, it's true.
So,
yeah, that tells you something.
Think about that.
And we'll end on this one, I guess. Think about that for a sec. The Bible is a war book. Arrogance and fear still keep you from learning. I feel like that's from Star Wars.
It does feel like a movie quote.
Oh, it's from Doctor Strange. Yeah, I thought it was Star Wars. It's Doctor Strange. All right.
Another comic book fight movie.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about us.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll see you next time.
When hell freezes over.
In the belief chair.
Work, Sky Moon.
And yeah, so Zoroastrianism.
I can't say it today.
Protestantism, you're gonna